News Central's correspondent Bernard Ekiti, who has been monitoring the election, joins me now on the news. Hello, Bernard. So earlier you told us that counting of voting was underway. What is the current state of things at the polling unit you are reporting from?
Hi, Rita. Good evening. At the moment, I would like to believe that almost every polling unit in the state, and if not every, has concluded counting of votes. Behind me, what you can see now is, what I showed the last time I came on air, and that's where we have the NYSC core members who are ad hoc staff for this election. Majority of them in the state here have returned with their materials, their electoral materials, and they have deployed them back here. That's after counting may have commenced and eventually ended in their polling units. So all those votes have been, all those ballots that have been cast have been returned here. They'll be collated from here and then moved over to the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission. That's talking about INEC, and that's where the big business for the night is going to commence, where all the votes will be put together, counted, and hopefully later tonight or in the wee hour or the early hours of tomorrow morning, the winner will eventually emerge and be announced.
All right, thank you, Bennett. Now, from the Adhoc staff, has there been any complaint from them about treatment or maltreatment so far?
Well, they are not authorized to speak to the press, but none of them have complained about any maltreatment so far, even if they were authorized to speak to us, but none of them has complained. The only challenges that we have, or that I have physically noticed, is in places where the number of voters is quite large, particularly in certain places around the state capital here. It may have been a bit overwhelming for the ad hoc staff, and in those places, voting may have taken longer than they would have expected. Of course, you will see fatigue written all over their faces, and they probably would have needed some time to rest maybe. But because of the way the elections are, they cannot take a break. They need to continue the process until eventually everything is concluded, so that it follows a certain pattern and it finishes up on time. But besides that, we haven't heard of any complaints from the ad hoc staff.
All right, now one major thing that has been trending is the issue of vote buying, which an NSCDC official has debunked. Can you help us paint a picture of events in Ekiti? Because we saw a lot of videos online.
Yes, now I particularly saw one video online just before coming live now of a particular building somewhere in the States here where officers of the EFCC stormed that particular building. Now, the caption beneath that story said that the EFCC stormed the building where vote buying was going on. Now, we cannot verify that particular video to start with. And then secondly, like the NSCDC spokesperson mentioned, it's not their job to go into people's houses or into buildings to search and to see whether vote buying is going on in those places. But on the ground at the different polling units, at least the places that I visited, and there were quite a number of them, if I do say so myself, we did not see anything that looked like vote buying. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we can't rule it out for now. Though we did not see it, we spoke to certain people, particularly one young man, who said that there may have been things like that. He couldn't provide any evidence or any proof, and then, well, we couldn't disprove it either. So it may have happened, it may not have happened, but we do not have any evidence, to prove it or to prove otherwise. But then again, like I mentioned earlier when I was asked the same question, we can't rule it out.
Okay, now, Bernard, earlier on you mentioned that the counting of voting has actually ended. What exactly is the mood of people, especially while the counting of votes were occurring?
Yes, now, so in certain places that we also visited before coming here, the local government center where there were 2 polling units, quite a large school here, the people seem to have been actively involved in the counting of votes. So that definitely raised the mood of the people. As a matter of fact, it made them look like it was kind of a celebratory mood, if I can put it that way. And then the way the people cheered and jeered the parties that they supported. And after the count had been concluded, the parties that won, the supporters there really cheered them on. You would think that that particular party has won the election already, the general elections. If you didn't know better, you thought they have won the elections without realizing it was just winning at a particular polling unit. So I'd say that the mood of the people has actually been high. They have been actively involved in the electoral process, in the counting of the votes, in following the way the votes are being sorted. You will see party observers and party agents calling out certain ballots that seem to have been null and void, or seem to have been destroyed or wrongly cast, or where they felt there was some kind of confusion or conflict. They would clearly call out the INEC ad hoc staff to clarify whatever issue had been on ground so that there would be no, in their words, no cheating on. So I would say that the participation has actually been high.
Okay, what about the environment now? I know you mentioned the Adhoc staff. Do we still have security agencies there? And from the last time you were on air till now, has there been any form of disturbance in the areas?
No, there hasn't been, although the only thing I think I witnessed after one of the places where vote was going on, it did seem like a vehicle moved out and then certain people followed the vehicle. Now, based on experience from what I've seen before, that particular scenario plays out when there's some kind of, will I call it remuneration, being given to certain people, maybe for their goodwill or maybe for their performance, you know, and it seemed to have caused some kind of disturbance outside of the premises. But in no short time, or in very short time rather, one particular vehicle of security operatives, I think the police it was, came in there and dispersed that crowd. But it was not any kind of disturbance. It was just a gathering of people trying to share something that seemed like money maybe. But immediately that crowd was dispersed. It didn't affect the electoral process that was going on here. It didn't affect the people at all. Everything went on smoothly. So there had been no disturbance. And then to further answer your question, of course, the large number of security operatives that we had here have moved. Now concentration is moving towards INEC office, which as I mentioned earlier, is the next point of call where all the votes will eventually be taken to, and then proceedings will continue late into the night. So that's where the large number of security presence is moving towards. Within the town, the presence of security operatives has calmed down. Some of the roadblocks have been removed, and the curfew has now been lifted. There is normalcy restored to the town, and people are moving about their daily businesses. And finally, behind me, as you can see, there's just very, very few police officers moving around here, around the ad hoc staff. Things have eased up a bit, so it's not as tense and as tight as it was earlier in the day.
All right, thank you so much, Bernard, for the update.